Happy Tuesday, everybody. This is Dr. Marina Mangano going over another safe step-by-step approach to yoga poses. Tonight we're talking about pigeon pose. Prone pigeon, meaning going face down pigeon pose. This is a position that when you hear a teacher call out in class, you already start to groan, you know it's tight, you know it's uncomfortable, and that's just because the traditional movement that we do throughout our day is in a forward-backward direction. We don't do a lot of side-to-side hip opening postures, and then we stay sedentary and prolonged in that stiff position. So when you come to yoga, it's very hard then to open into different planes of motion. A common misunderstanding for any hip external rotation, hip opening posture, is that you have to be extremely flexible in those muscles for it to open. While that is true to a point, there's also an opposite aspect that the hip needs to feel stable enough to allow you to be that flexible. So not only should those muscles be open, they need to be strong and have a good connection with your brain. So wonderful postures to work up into that pose include strong, powerful hip opening postures like Warrior Two, where you're weighted and you're open in hip external rotation, but you're still strong in using those muscles. So we're going to workshop this pose and show some modifications. If you know pigeon is uncomfortable for you, I'd like to show you some kind of unique ways to get into it. So using my right foot as the initial front foot. Step one, just like with the splits in our last video, try not to roll open to the side. So if you get into pigeon and you feel like you're all on your right glute and your left leg's out behind you, pull this shin back closer so you can allow the left hip to square to the front of the mat. And you're gonna kind of walk yourself around so you feel like this knee can come inward toward you as the left hip can shoot forward. So once your pelvis is squared, facing along the parallel lines of the mat, peek back. If your left leg is going too far, heel toe yourself in. And a lot of times this hurts people's knees, so you can put a blanket underneath to protect the kneecap, excuse me. And once you're here, we're gonna workshop a couple of those isometric holds, PIR, post-isometric relaxation. So I find my square posture, pull both legs up and inward for 5, 4, 3, 2, big belly breath in, exhale, release and sink. If you're starting to feel like with squared hips, you can start moving that leg forward. Now's the time to do that in between isometric sets. One more time, squeezing up and in for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, big breath in, exhale, sink. If you feel like you're falling forward, I'm trying to help you stay upright at first. Have your blocks nearby if this uprighting is uncomfortable in your low back or it's too tight in the hip flexor. So the blocks will help you to stay tall and allow you to add that isometric contraction in a safe plane of motion. If you're trying to add compression from a really arched position, it's just going to go to areas that already have too much load. So use the blocks, extend through the arms, press your knees, get you squared, safe, and then we can move on. Once I have everybody in my class come down to the ground, before you drop right into it, even if you're really flexible, find this posture first. So you're down on your forearms, walk the foot up as high as possible while you're still squared, and now you're gonna add some cat-cows. So arching the belly, popping the tailbone up, tucking the tailbone down, slouching through the back. There's not as much access to motion here as cat-cow while you're on your knees, but it still helps slide some fascia, slide some tight tissues through areas of compression. Really good. So once you do some cat-cows, we're gonna add rotation to the compressed hip. So right now the hip, it will feel a lot better if you open away from it. So right forearm down, pressing a bind to the inside of that front leg, open towards the ceiling, breathing into the compressed hip. Switching sides, find a lock with the front foot, use the elbow to push into your bind, rotate towards the tight hip. This is a harder direction to rotate, so make sure you're still pressing the top of that back leg to help activate the twist. Deep breathing, don't hold your breath. So after cat-cows, after helpful rotations, the last little PIR trick I have in pigeon is to use your forearm to the inside of the foot to bind. I'm using my arm to pull towards my midline, push the knee away from me, and also to pull my core forward into a deeper hip hinge. You can stay here for 3, 2, big breath in, exhale, sink. All of these contract and relax. You can do them as many times as you need to keep finding new range and new space in the safe posture. Obviously, once you're feeling like you're at your full capacity, walk the hands forward, fall into the pose. Once you are in the full expression and you're forward folding, make sure your shoulders aren't hunched up because it's uncomfortable. So all these little intricate procedures to get there is to make you feel more comfortable, more at peace. So when you are in the full expression and you're laying over the leg, shoulder blades come down towards your hips and pulls your hips into a deeper hip hinge on the front leg. Make sure you're not breathing really high. Allow the belly breath to inhale, touch the shin, exhale, release. If pigeon is not going to look like that for you today, for the next month, for the next year, that's fine. We all have different injuries and experiences through the hips. Using your blocks, using your support to get you there will just make a new normal for you each time you visit the pose. It's traditionally taught to have a block up underneath the hip that's being stretched, and that's fine as long as you then aren't rolling open. So hips are square, this block is keeping me upright, and that's just so you can actually relax. If you don't have the block, even if you're really flexible, you could be in a little of an unbalanced position. The block is allowing you to sink, feel supported, relax enough to start opening these tight, intricate muscles that are keeping you safe and protected. In an energetic standpoint, pigeon is in the category of yoga poses called hip openers. And they tend to have a stigma of being challenging and they pull up a lot of emotional releases. I do agree with that because your body remembers movements with the emotional and with the mental experience that happened while you were learning that movement. So through the hip, there's a lot of different muscles that control the various and intricate movements of the hip. There's also a very deep internal capsule, so we don't often get to expose the limits of those deep muscles in daily lives. So when you come to yoga, we are excavating these old regions that maybe we haven't utilized or been agile and dodging things since we were a kid or we were playing. The pelvis is obviously an area of a lot of variety throughout your life, especially in a female, going through different stages of your cycle during the month. Or with pregnancy, your pelvis is shifting and then reverting back to either normal or a new normal. So the tissue in the hips, it just has so much to tell us. It has so much variation from even side to side in our own body. So every time you come to a hip posture, a hip deep opener, make sure you're coming into it safe, warmed up, use these cues to centrate your hips, keep you activated, and then breathe. The breath is rewiring your brain. The breath is telling your physical body we're safe, we're supported, we are allowed to feel discomfort, not pain. Feeling discomfort, we're acknowledging it and we're releasing it. A joke of mine is usually, hey, when you're done with pigeon pose, when you want to get out of it, stay for 10 breaths. Allow yourself to feel the ugly, allow yourself to go through the shaking and the sweating. With breath, you're teaching your body to expel and detoxify all just those movement memories. So give this a try. Please reach out with any comments or questions. I love to hear your take on not just the physical, but if you're interested in learning more about the emotional mentality of not just our body and the asanas, but your yoga practice in general. Have a great night.